listening to, I say you are listening to, you are absolutely listening to the George Espinlov Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm. Now, with no further ado, here comes Georgie!
Thank you, Charlie. Love it. Thank you. Oh, I can see that we're going to have a time tonight. And I can see that we're just now getting wound up for the entire week. And God only knows what's going to happen here on the George Espinlov Show as we come to you Monday through Friday. To all of our friends down the street, around the corner, across this great nation, and around the world, I welcome you to the George Espinlov Show. And we're coming to you live from the Funny Farm. That's right, we're live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. We have no specific mailing address. We have no post office. We have no postmaster. We have no postal delivery person. We don't even have a mailbox. But listen, we are on top of it. Don't you worry about a thing. We are top-notch technology here in our world. Email me, George C.E. That's George C.E. at Comcast.net, George C.E. at Comcast.net. And Charlie, if you don't stop throwing them little doodads at me, I'm going to walk over there and punch you right in the nose. Now stop it. Man, have we got a week planned for you, and we have one tonight. I really do. I trust that you have already contacted family and friends, neighbors, friends, Romans, countrymen. It makes no difference. I hope you contacted everyone possible down your line so they could tune in tonight, because this is so relevant for the day and time in which we live. If you haven't done any of those things, if you haven't contacted anyone, please, I ask you, please contact a family, friend, someone, a neighbor, and tell them to tune in to the George Espinlov Show live on Spreaker.com, because our guest tonight is going to challenge us. This is a necessary program. This is going to be a hard-hitting radio show tonight, and it is going to be thought-provoking. We're going to think. The man is going to challenge us to think, and not only to think, but to get up and get our feet moving and do something, because this is our country. As Charlie oftentimes says, with no further ado, we are going to bring to you right now our guest out of Dallas, Texas, Mr. Michael Connally. Michael, welcome to the George Espinlov Show.
Well, thank you for having me on, George. I appreciate it.
I was telling our audience, that this is a necessary show. It's going to be a hard-hitting show. And most of all, it's going to be a thought-provoking show. And I told him that you're going to challenge us not only to adhere what you are telling us, but to put our feet in action and get up and do something, because this is our country. Am I pretty much on the ball there?
Absolutely. We, are dealing with a situation where we have one scandal after another in the Obama administration. We have continuous impeachable offenses being committed by Obama and members of his administration. I mean, I'm a former Army officer. I took an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The President and all members of his cabinet and all members of Congress and all federal employees and state employees take the same oath. There is a criminal statute, very few people know this, that there's a federal criminal statute that says if you violate that oath and you try to destroy the Constitution, you are guilty of a crime and can be sentenced to a year in jail and a $10,000 fine. Now here we have a President of the United States who ignores Congress, who doesn't follow the duties he's assigned to, and that is to enforce the laws passed by Congress. He certainly is not allowed to make laws on his own, but he's doing that. He's deciding which laws to enforce. He's got members of his cabinet breaking laws on a regular basis, and he says he knows nothing about it. Well, what does that make him? As a President of the United States, that's happening, and he doesn't know anything about it. Either he's lying to the American people, which I think is obvious, which makes him violate his oath of office because he's destroying the constitutional fabric of this country, or he's totally incompetent, which can be just as bad. So we're dealing here with a situation where we are losing our country. We are being driven away from being a constitutional republic to being a socialist or a communist dictatorship.
You and I were talking before we went on the air, and I was sharing with you that I never thought that I would see things the way they are today. But yet you said that you saw it coming. Share with our audience what you told me about that. Would you do that?
I'll be glad to. 25 years ago, actually more now, I sat down and wrote a novel. And it was based on at that time, the Soviet Union was still in existence. And I wrote a novel, and basically in that novel, I was writing what I thought might happen to this country. And it was based on the fact that we had some weak presidents in the United States, and in the novel we have a very weak president. We have a corrupt president who pushes an agenda which is hurtful to the United States, to his own country. Members of Congress will do the same thing. Members of the national news media, they're going along with all of this and covering for the president. And it was the Russians. I wrote this novel. I shoved it in a drawer, didn't even try to get it published. And then when my late wife was dying of cancer about 6 years ago, she told me she loved that book. She wanted me to get it published, wanted that to be her legacy. So I updated it to make it the Chinese. And what happens is the Chinese, because we're ignoring them, we don't believe our own intelligence, we allow them to place weapons in space, and recently they've launched some satellites, weapons in space that are used to attack us from space platforms. They destroy the U.S. military, what's left of it, and we surrender. The president surrenders, and we have to go out in the woods, out in the mountains, in the swamps in Louisiana, and fight. And this is about the resistance. And the novel is called Amiyeli, A Story of America. Amiyeli is a Cherokee word. And it's about the resistance. And basically, people are reading that novel right now, and it's available, as an ebook now on Amazon and all other kinds of places, and as a hard copy, and people can get it directly from me if they want. But people are reading that and going, this is exactly what's happening right now. This is what we are facing. Mm-hmm. How did you know this 25 years ago? I saw it coming. I saw the direction this country was heading. I saw the federal government back in those days grabbing more and more power, and they become more and more corrupt. And we had the hiatus when we had Ronald Reagan in there, who was a great president and tried to reverse the trends. But since that time, the trends have continued, and now we have a president of the United States who considers himself, well, he's got a tremendous ego. He's a narcissist. He considers himself an elitist. He and his people are smarter than the rest of us. George, you and I are just considered the unwashed masses. We're too stupid to know how to use our own money, too stupid to be allowed to speak freely, and to practice religion the way we want to. All the things protected by the Constitution. This is what I wrote about, and this is what the novel is about. The good part about it is it projects hope. I had one woman put a rating on Amazon here recently, made comments about how it made her laugh, it made her cry, it made her want to stand up and cheer. You know, it was a novel about America, and we're losing that America, and we're going to have to fight to get it back. Right now, we're not in a position yet where we have to go into the mountains and fight, but we may get to that point. If we cannot beat them in the courts, if we cannot beat them in the ballot boxes, if they continue to take away our constitutional rights, if they try to disarm us, and right now there's an all-out effort bypassing Congress to disarm American veterans. There are 21 million of us out there. We all took that same oath of office, and there's an effort being made by the Veterans Administration and the Obama administration to illegally disarm American veterans. And that's one of the things that the U.S. Justice Foundation, that I'm now executive director of, one of the things that we're going to be doing is filing a lawsuit on behalf of these veterans.
And that website is, correct me if I'm wrong, usjf.net?
That's correct. And people can go there. If there are veterans out there who have received a letter from the VA saying that you are going to be declared incompetent by the VA to handle your own financial affairs because you are physically or mentally disabled, and there's no definition given of that. They're doing this to veterans with minor PTSD. They're doing it to veterans who have allowed their spouses to handle their financial affairs. They're doing it with veterans with physical disabilities. And then the letter goes on, we're going to declare you incompetent. And then it says, once we do that, you cannot own, possess, transport, or purchase a firearm or ammunition. If you do, you're guilty of a felony. We have 150,000 veterans now on the list of people who cannot legally purchase firearms in this country. 99.9% of them don't belong on there. Because the criteria is for them to go on the list, they have to be adjudicated to be mentally ill to the point of being a danger to themselves or others. Allowing your spouse to pay the family bills does not make you mentally ill. Minor PTSD does not make you mentally ill. PTSD, period, is not even classified as a mental illness in a lot of places. But if there are veterans out there who received this letter or been declared incompetent, contact us at usjf.net. We will be representing veterans for free. We will not charge them. We're going to raise the money independently. So if people want to donate to help us, they can go to usjf.net and see the site on the top of the homepage, donate to us, and they can click that link on. But we need to stop this. This is going to be another one of the major scandals for Obama to have to deal with. I mean, we have the IRS, we have Benghazi, we have the Department of Justice spying on members of the media. We have the EPA turning over the private information of 80,000 farm families, including their names and addresses, to radical environmental groups that want to destroy them. We have that scandal going on out there, and we have the spying on the collecting of records by the NSA. And, it's just one scandal after another. And a lot of people are starting to look at this veterans thing and going, this could be bigger than most of the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. Now, if there's any veterans out there or anyone at all, not just veterans, and you want to ask Michael a question or make a comment, dial 302-497-3414. That number again is 302-497-3414. But in particular, now Michael, you were saying about the letter, and do we, the veterans, receive that letter, or is it a letter that's being sent out to whom?
It's being sent out to veterans, and I've got copies of letters that veterans have received, and they all basically say the same thing. And they tell them that they're going to, because it says the VA's received information that because of your physical or mental disabilities. So in other words, if a veteran lost an arm or a leg in combat, they're not telling him that they can declare him incompetent under the law, which they can't. But there is a fiduciary program which was designed to help elderly veterans suffering from dementia who couldn't handle their own financial affairs. But veterans are getting this letter, and they're not being told why sometimes. There's no due process here. There's really no way for them to fight it except to file an appeal, which they have to do at their own expense. And now we found out that veteran families are being told, if you appeal, if you try to fight us on declaring you incompetent and taking away your Second Amendment rights, we're going to withhold your VA payments. So you can't feed your family.
Ooh.
This is the tip of the iceberg. We've gotten more information in the last couple of days, which I'm not even going to talk about at this point because we haven't confirmed it yet, but supposedly it came from a lawyer with the FBI who basically is saying that there's going to be a lot more happening to our veterans than just this, that they're going to be losing other constitutional rights. It's an all-out assault on our veterans, and it's even on the widows. Okay, we have a woman we're going to be representing who lost her husband in Vietnam. He's been receiving VA payments ever since. They asked her at the VA one day, how do you handle paying your bills? And she says, it's easy. It's all automated. All of my bills are paid directly from my checking account every month. On that basis alone, they declared her incompetent to handle her own affairs, and now she's on the list of people who cannot purchase firearms.
I tell our listeners so often, on certain shows, I tell them right from the beginning, scrooch up on the edge of your chair because that's where you're going to be before it's all over. I'm on the edge of my chair, and my next move is to stand up, where I end up a lot of times. This stuff will make someone spit sideways. I mean, it's just it's insane. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, and countrymen, listen to me. There are things that are taking place in front of us, beside us, behind us, things that we know nothing about, but there is things moving to bring this country down to its knees. So, if you have any questions, call 302-497-3414. Michael, I was talking with my wife here when the NSA scandal broke. And then when I was researching your material, I see that, and this struck me, all of these scandals have one common denominator. They are actions by our government designed to make us afraid of it. And then you went on to say, none of this is an accident. And you went on to say, as you mentioned earlier, unfortunately for America, Obama is neither stupid nor incompetent. He's an elitist, a narcissist who knows exactly what he is doing, and with Obamacare, it's only going to get worse. Now, with this NSA business and the monitoring of our phones and our emails and so on and so forth, and with the enemies list, I call it the enemies list that they put out as terrorists, who they consider terrorists. You and I and people like us that stand up and shout it from the rooftops, we're not too popular with this United States government, are we?
No, absolutely not. And you can bet we're being monitored every step of the way. You're talking about the list. You have Napolitano says potential terrorists are people who believe in the right to life, which I do, people who believe in the Second Amendment, which I do, veterans, which I am a veteran, people who believe in limited government, which I do, people who believe in individual freedom, which I do. And so I'm on every list they have out there, and you probably are too.
Yep.
I mean, we're all on every list they've got. We are considered dangerous people, and particularly if they think we're armed. And that's why the veterans are being targeted, because, like I said, there's 21 million of us there. We're trained to fight. Many of us are armed, and they have to disarm us. But this is the politics of fear, was the article I wrote on this on my blog. And it follows the pattern that was followed by Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany. followed by Joseph Stalin in the Soviet Union, followed by Mao Zedong in China. It's been followed by every dictator in history. You have to create a climate of fear. You have to make people think that they're being monitored, even if they aren't being monitored. You have to make them afraid to say things in front of their neighbors, in front of their own children, afraid they're going to be punished for what they believe, afraid they're going to be punished for what they do. And once you get the climate of fear built up, then you can control the people. At least that's the expectation. In my book, Yale, A Story of America, I point out that doesn't always work, that there are ways to resist. But people don't understand what's happening. In a little book that I wrote called Our Constitution, I take each article, each section, each amendment of the Constitution, and I print them the way they were originally written, and then put my comments in about it. One of the things that's in that booklet that is not very rarely seen in textbooks when they put in the Constitution is the preamble to the Bill of Rights. People are aware there's a preamble to the Constitution, but this is a preamble to the Bill of Rights that basically says, and the states put this in, that said, just so there's no misunderstanding by the federal government, the rights listed herein in these 10 amendments are rights that belong to the people and to the states inherently. They were not given to us by the federal government, therefore the federal government cannot take them away. Because we acknowledge the federal government gave us these rights, and they have the right to take them away. This is not what the Constitution says. But if people don't know what their rights are, they're not even going to be aware when they're losing them.
You know, whoever made that statement, knowledge is power, hit that nail right on top of the head for sure. Because, unfortunately, many Americans, far too many Americans, know more about American Idol, Survivor, blah, 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 than they do who their local mayor is. And take that all the way from your local to the county to the state, all the way up to the federal. And there we stand, like, duh. And it's no wonder they could hoodwink so many people and pull the wool over our eyes. And as you said before we went on the air, it's not being taught in school anymore as it was when you and I went to school. And if they can get these little brains and they can put the propaganda inside of them as they've been doing for years, they've got it, don't they?
Mm-hmm, they sure do, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're turning our school systems into a place to propagandize our children, to teach them to despise the United States, to despise our Constitution, to think that we're the cause of all the ills in the world, to ignore our history. You know, some of the things that I've seen that are being taught here in Texas, for example, the Texas legislature actually took some action to stop this so-called C-scope is what it's called down here. It's Common Core everywhere else, but this was the same part of the same thing. Children were being taught, for example, that the Second Amendment is not an individual right. It's a collective right belonging only to the National Guard. The Supreme Court has twice ruled that it is an individual right, yet our children are being taught exactly the opposite. They were taught that the true religion out there of peace and love is Islam. And they are actually, in one of the curriculums they have here in Texas, there was a full page in the curriculum on how children could convert to the Muslim religion. And they were taught that the Christian religion was horrible, the Muslim religion was good. They were taught, for example, that the members of the Boston Tea Party were terrorists and committed an illegal act in trying to, ignite people to fight for our independence. This, like I said, fortunately something's being done about it here in Texas. But in a lot of states, we understand it's much worse what our children are being taught. And they're certainly not being taught anything about the Constitution or about their constitutional rights. Right after 9/11, my oldest son, who was in the Army and still is in the Army, he's done a total of 80 months in combat since 9/11. He's in Afghanistan as we speak, but he I had to send him off to war along with my youngest son, who was a Black Hawk pilot. And I remember saying goodbye to my oldest son and thinking about something that I'd heard on the radio that morning, where somebody said that, yes, we are sending our soldiers off to war, and the rest of the United Americans are going to the mall. And that basically is where we are right now. We have soldiers over there laying down their lives, fighting for us, and we have millions and millions of Americans that are totally clueless to the fact that we are losing our country from within. It's being taken away from us by a corrupt president, a corrupt administration, and a corrupt Congress.
We have guests on here from all over the world, from all walks of life, and I often mention to people that on our show we laugh, we cry, and there's all different types of emotions that are shown. And I'm not ashamed to say, as you sit there and tell us these things, tears, I can't help but have tears well up in my eyes. And I think just how much of a perilous condition we find ourselves in. And if we don't do something, and we don't do something now, we're going to lose what we do have. But I also believe that if men and women will straighten up their backbone and listen to men like you, and listen to other people that knows the scoop and will receive it and learn it, if we'll stand up, we can turn this thing around, don't you think?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I thought we didn't have a chance of winning. Mm-hmm. I'd be out in the woods somewhere getting ready to survive, and now I think we can win. The United States Justice Foundation, we're doing the fight in the courts. I'm doing the fight in the courts by the executive director and supervising attorneys, but we're also getting the word out to people to contact their members of Congress and to fight the fight in the state legislatures. If you live in a state where the conservatives control your legislature, they can do things. There are rights the states have under the 10th Amendment to basically say no to the federal government, and they need to be doing it. Support your local elected sheriff. When they come out and say, we're not going to support or enforce any new gun control laws passed by the federal government in our county, you need to make sure you support them in doing that. I met with a bunch of these guys here recently at a convention in St. Louis, and it's the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, and Sheriff Richard Mack runs it. And I mean, these guys are standing up for us. They're saying no to the federal government. If they can do it, so can we.
When right after the tragedy in Connecticut, and they started on this gun control business again, and one thing I'll give these far left extremists is they have tenacity. I mean, they won't stop. They might back up for a short period of time, but all they're doing is regrouping and trying to come at you from a different direction. But when they started with the gun control again, and they started mentioning mental health, I told someone, watch and see, and you confirmed what I was thinking tonight when you was talking about the veterans. I said, watch and see if all of a sudden there's a witch hunt that takes place and people that are competent ends up being labeled as incompetent so they can get their weapons out of the way. And you confirmed that tonight. And I'm so glad that you did, because, okay, Espinlob's diagnosed as crazy, or, he took a long walk off a short pier, so go get his weapons. He's not capable of managing them, that he's not capable of having them, just disarm them. And there you are, along with hundreds of thousands and possibly millions of other veterans and Americans across our nation. Where, and I've asked this question, I don't know how many times, but where did this guy come from, Michael Obama? I mean, where did he come from? Out of the blue. He was a nobody. He didn't even play in the big games. He just Who schooled him? Who nurtured this guy?
Well, he was, obviously nurtured by people on the far left. I mean, his mentor was a communist, a known communist. He was nurtured by Olinsky, who was a known communist and radical. He's been brought up in the Chicago School of Politics, which basically says that, we're going to win, do whatever it takes to win. And that includes, stealing votes, committing crimes of all sorts. And so, that's who this guy is. Now, as far as I'm concerned, he's not an American. And it has nothing to do with where he was born. Although I saw some compelling evidence that was presented at this conference I was at in St. Louis by one of the cold case posse members of Sheriff Joe out in Arizona. A compelling evidence that the birth certificate's a forgery, that the whole thing is a fraud. We don't know where this man was born. He was not vetted. We don't know if he's an American citizen. We don't know if he's even entitled to be president of the United States. But it doesn't really matter whether he's an American citizen or not. He's not an American. He does not believe in this country. He does not believe in what this country stands for. He doesn't believe in the Constitution. He doesn't believe in our free market economy, our system of economics. He believes that this country should be destroyed and turned into some kind of socialist paradise. Think about all the socialist paradises out there. The Soviet Union, Communist China, Cuba, Venezuela. They've all been failures. The people have all suffered the loss of their freedoms. They've all suffered through poverty. They haven't been able to, only the elitists in the Communist Party in these countries have anything. The rest of the people suffer. They're told what kind of jobs they can have. They're told what kind of education they can have. They're told that they cannot speak freely. And this is what Obama wants for us. And this is who this man is, and that's what people need to understand. We're not just dealing here with a president of the United States who's been elected and is going to serve out his 2 terms and then quietly go away. I don't think that he and his people intend for us to ever have another free election in this country. I think they intend to steal the election if necessary or just cancel the election. I mean, Obama has, by executive order, continuously given himself powers that do not belong to him in the Constitution. In fact, they don't belong to anybody under the Constitution. For example, he's given himself the power to declare martial law, which the president has, but he's very limited. It was done by President Lincoln, and the Supreme Court struck down part of what he was trying to do because they said it was too broad. And Obama, he's given himself the power under martial law to declare it, first of all, for any reason whatsoever, and then to take control personally of the transportation system in this country, the fuels, who will get fuel, who won't, to take control of food distribution, to take control of medical care, which he's doing with Obamacare anyway, and to basically take control of transportation system entirely, decide where we can go, what transportation forms we can use. I mean, this is stuff that's extraordinary. This is dictatorial powers that he has, by executive order, signed and given to himself. Congress didn't give it to him. The Constitution didn't give it to him. But he's done it anyway, and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody in Congress has raised an outcry. I mean, the man continually usurps the powers of Congress. In 2009, I read the original 1,100-page proposal of Obamacare. And it was only 1,100 pages at that point. The final version was 2,700 pages. But I read it, and people were amazed that I read it. I wrote an article about it, basically sent it out on my email list, and people reacted so strongly to it that I had finally ended up starting my blog. And, the blog's on constitutional law. But what I said about Obamacare was that this is not about health care. This is about an extraordinary transfer of power from the Congress of the United States to the President of the United States. And then I pointed out that they're transferring power from Congress that Congress didn't have in the first place. There's no constitutional basis for this type of sweeping takeover of health care. And I know the Supreme Court ruled it's constitutional, And they said because it's a tax, that the mandate is a tax. Well, I said back then it was a tax, but that didn't make it constitutional. The fact of the matter is that this thing was passed, and we still don't know everything in the Senate, or people don't know. 2,700 pages. Basically, 138 new agencies were formed. Totally out of control of Congress. All of these members of all of these groups are being appointed by Obama, and that includes the death panels, which I predicted, and I was told that I was crazy. But, 138 agencies, new committees, members being appointed by Obama. They decide what powers they have. It's not stated specifically in the law. And now we have the specter of the Internal Revenue Service, the same people that just gave us this major scandal, and in fact the same people who were targeting the conservative groups are now going to be in charge of Obamacare, enforcing it. Do we really think that our medical information is going to be safe? I mean, if the EPA is giving out the names and addresses and personal information of farmers, do we really think that Obama and his administration are going to keep our medical information safe? And by the way, here's where the trigger comes in. And what you were saying a while ago, George, is exactly true. This is going to be a war using psychiatric or psychiatrists. Just like they did in Nazi Germany, just like they've done in Cuba, just like they do in China, just like they did in the Soviet Union. They're going to be going through our medical records, and if you have ever, because this is a test case they're using, that's why we have to win this lawsuit for the veterans, because they're testing this on the veterans. But they're going to be going through all of our medical records, and if there's a note in there that 10 years ago you told your psychiatrist that you were feeling kind of depressed because you'd lost a loved one or you'd lost something like that, that will trigger you being put on the list of people who cannot own firearms. I guarantee it. They're going to have our medical records, and they're going to have access to our financial records. They're going to be able to look at your bank accounts to determine whether or not you're, entitled to some subsidy under Obamacare. They're going to want to look at your bank accounts in real time and see what money you've got in the bank and how you spend your money and where you spend your money. We're talking total government control.
Why doesn't someone or someone's in Congress, why aren't they out there hollering and screaming about this?
Well, you've got Rand Paul doing it and a few others. But the main thing about the Congress is that and this includes the Republicans, a lot of them are more interested in keeping their jobs than in doing what's right. And, they're afraid that if I say something against Obama, the New York Times are going to call me a racist. Well, the New York Times is going to call them a racist regardless of what they do. The New York Times is going to criticize anything conservatives do, anything that the Republicans do. We have to have some people that are elected to Congress who will stand up and say enough is enough. We need, and I've been asked to do another article for my blog on this, and we'll probably work on it, but we need the House of Representatives to file articles of impeachment against Obama. Now, people say, well, that won't work because the Senate will never convict him. No, the Senate won't convict him. But if the Congress, and it only takes a majority of the House of Representatives, to file articles of impeachment, and they can list and do a long laundry list of things here. Once they're filed, then it goes to the Senate for a full trial. A trial where you have the prosecution, the defense, you have attorneys from both sides, you have the trial presided over by the Supreme Court, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Roberts, and evidence is presented. And then the Senate would have to vote by 2/3 to convict. Well, that's not going to happen, we know. But here's what will happen. Once articles of impeachment are filed, the attorneys representing the House of Representatives, basically the prosecuting attorneys in this case, will have extraordinary access to documents, to information, to testimony. They can take depositions. There will be very little that can be excluded by executive privilege, because the President of the United States is the one that's going to be under the articles of impeachment. So information could be obtained that the congressional committees cannot get. I mean, information about Fast and Furious, which the administration sandbagged the Congress on. This stuff can be obtained by the members of Congress, by the attorneys representing the House of Representatives, can be presented openly in the Senate, because the Senate hearings cannot be held secretly. They have to be open to the media. Even the national news media is trying to cover things up for Obama. I think they would have a tough time at that point continuing to do so. Mm-hmm. I think that they would, be in a situation where they're going to have to report, and the American people may finally start finding out what's going on here.
These executive orders and executive privilege, and what about all of these czars? I mean, and he's got people sitting in those positions that are known socialists, communists, so on, so forth. And he don't need congressional approval for these people. But yet, isn't there an oversight committee or someone that can look at these appointments as he sidesteps and goes around Congress? Isn't there something within our Constitution that can protect us from such things?
Well, exactly. There is such a thing, but the problem is its power lies in the Senate, and the Senate is acquiesced to this because the Constitution requires that all appointments made by the President of the United States must be with the advice and consent of the Senate. The House has nothing to do with this. It's strictly the Senate. All appointments have to be approved by a majority of the senators. Obama appointed, last count, I think there were 42 czars, and totally bypassed the Senate. And each of these czars has their own staff, their own budget, which is not being controlled by Congress, and they can basically do whatever they want. This is illegal. Some member of the Senate, because the Senate member has the standing to do this, and that's a legal term, of course, that you have to be in a position where something is harming you in order to file a lawsuit. I cannot for the life of me understand why no U.S. Senator ever stepped forward and filed a lawsuit saying, look, you have taken away my power to represent my constituents. The Constitution says that I have to approve all presidential appointments. I'm not being allowed to even vote on them. Therefore, I cannot represent the people of my state. Nobody had the guts enough to do this, George. And I'm aghast. I still can't believe that it did not happen. I mean, if they come to the U.S. Justice Foundation, we would represent them for free. Mm-hmm. We would have been glad to do something like this. But we can't do it on our own. We don't have the standing. The courts would rule that you or I going out there and doing it, we would not have the legal standing to do it. It had to be a United States Senator. Nobody did that. And I've talked about this on my radio show, and I've written about it in my blog. Why not? I mean, here, it used to be that and I remember the days when the Congress was very jealous of its powers under the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And any time a president tried to take away any of those powers or bypass Congress, all hell broke loose. Right. I mean, Congress wasn't going to put up with it. It didn't matter if you were a Republican or Democrat or who the president was. They wouldn't put up with it. Now they acquiesce to everything this man does. And that's why we have to, we've got some members of Congress that are putting up a fight in the House of Representatives. We have a few in the Senate, but we have to clean house. We have to get rid of the people who are, I call them Obama bots, because basically they will follow along with whatever Obama tells them to do, and they will not question it. They will not talk about it. They will not say anything negative to the man, about the man. And, they are violating their oath of office. When Nancy Pelosi does something illegal that violates her oath of office, she can be prosecuted for it. When Harry Reid decides on his own that, well, I don't like this legislation passed by the House, I'm not even going to allow it to be discussed in the Senate. I'm not going to allow it to be voted on. I'm not going to allow it to be even introduced. that is a violation of the Constitution, and he's violating his oath of office, and he can be prosecuted for that. Unfortunately, the people who prosecute someone under federal law are usually the U.S. attorneys. And, of course, those are controlled by Eric Holder, who's in turn controlled by Obama. And, I mean, how's this for how stupid things are in this country?
Mm-hmm.
Obama, Eric Holder lies to Congress about not knowing James Rosen of Fox News, not knowing anything about him being investigated by the Department of Justice. Even though it turns out that Eric Holder signed the order requesting the warrant. So he had to know. So he lied to Congress. So how does Obama respond? He orders Eric Holder to conduct an investigation into the conduct of Eric Holder.
Yeah. That's like me. I could go rob a bank, and then they say, "Okay, Espinlov, you investigate this robbery." Yeah.
Right. It's becoming insane. I mean, it really is. And I'll give you another example of the veterans thing we've been talking about, because of how insane it's getting. We have somebody we're representing here in the state of Texas. Young veteran, went to Iraq, did a full combat tour, came back, was still in the Army, was based in, I believe, Georgia, and had some PTSD issues. So, he was treated for these, and then they told him, well, because you got PTSD, you're no longer capable of buying a firearm. You're prohibited from owning or buying a firearm. So then what does the Army do with him? They send him back to Iraq for another combat tour. So he's back fighting for his country. He's perfectly competent, according to the U.S. Army, to own a fire or to have a firearm and fight in a foreign country for our country. But then he gets back here again, and they tell him again, no, you're incompetent. You can't own a firearm in the United States. It's just totally insane.
Was it the U.S. JF that was representing the fellow that, if I can remember correctly, you might have to help me, representing the fellow that wrote some things on Facebook and they toted him away, was U.S. Was you guys representing him?
Yeah, U.S. Marine who was thrown out of the Marines for criticizing Obama on Facebook.
Yes.
Yes, we are representing him. We're still representing him.
And that's still up in the air.
Yeah. He was thrown out of the Marines, and we have a pending lawsuit that's under appeal right now on his behalf, because we feel like, that's just another way of trying to keep our troops from knowing, what's going on, and to control the free speech, which soldiers have too. They have a right to free speech. By the way, I recently posted on my blog the fact that I found out that when I post a new article on my blog, I have a number of followers who want to know about it. So I send out emails to everybody on my list saying, I posted this new article and it's about this and this. And lately, all of a sudden, if it goes out to an Army email address, I get a notice back saying that this email has not been delivered because the Army Cyber Command has determined that URLs contained in this email have been disallowed by the military. Now, what are those? Well, one of them is my personal website where the blog is. It's www.michaelconnally, CONNELLY.jigsy.com. That's where my blog is. That's where people can read about my books and all this stuff. All of a sudden, that's been disallowed by the Army. My other site is www.constitution.jigsy.com, and that's where people can read about the Constitutional Law Alliance and order copies of my book on the Constitution. That's been disallowed. And then the third one on the email is usjf.net. That has also apparently been disallowed. So all of a sudden we have the United States Army saying we don't want the soldiers we're sending out to fight for the Constitution, who take an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution, we don't want them knowing anything about the Constitution. We don't want them to know what's happening with the Constitution. They're telling me we're not going to allow you to communicate with the soldiers in the field, even if they want you to. Because I never send these out. I don't do spam. I don't send them out. Most of the soldiers that do get it use their private email address, but some have to use a military email address.
Wow.
And, all of a sudden, I'm being censored by the United States Army. So how many more people are being censored out there? We're being told now that soldiers are being told that they cannot read certain books. A book by Rush Limbaugh, they can't read it. They're being told they can't have, if they're sitting in an office someplace, they cannot have a Bible on their desk. They're being told they can't talk about their religion. They're being told they can't criticize the Muslim religion. They can't criticize the fact that Muslim men will marry girls of 6 years old.
But yet,
and have sex with them. We're not supposed to criticize that. Not supposed to criticize the Taliban for beheading young boys because they happen to be trying to get food from one of the American bases. I mean, it's total insanity. It's called political correctness. I have no use for it whatsoever. It's not being politically correct. It's stifling free speech. It has a chilling effect on free speech, and that's what all this is all about, the politics of fear, is to try to take away our freedom to speak freely and to practice our religion freely and have freedom of the press. Fourth Amendment rights are disappearing. I mean, we're talking about being monitored by the NSA. Now we find out the FBI admits they're putting drones up in the air to monitor us. And by the way, the FAA has approved 30,000 drone routes for this country. So we don't have any idea how many are out there. We don't know what they're doing. These drones are capable of monitoring what you and I are talking about right now on the phone. They can monitor what I'm looking at on my computer. They can, read my emails. They can do all of this stuff. But the worst part about it is they can also, some of them can be armed. And if you recall, the administration refused to rule out Obama using drone strikes against American citizens.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, these are perilous times in which we live, and it's still, as of now, it's still we the people, but it must be we the people. Michael, I like what else you said here, if I could find it real quick. Our founding fathers gave their all to give us this Constitution and our freedoms, and generations of Americans have given their best and brightest to do battle to defend them. We can do nothing less. And you said before you said that, when it was talking about the same thing happened in the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, if that means taking to the streets in massive protest, now in the eyes of the government, and we've already mentioned this, these, who was it that used to say, them are fighting words, but if that means taking to the streets in massive protest or even forming neighborhood groups to protect ourselves and our home, then so be it. That's radicalism as defined by this government, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. They think that anybody who, like I said, believes in individual freedom or believes in limited government, they think we're a radical. And they certainly, you saw the way they reacted to the Tea Party. Excuse me. I'm about to lose my voice. We saw the way they reacted to the Tea Parties, particularly national news media, constantly attacking the Tea Parties and accusing them of being racist, accusing them of being violent. I mean, when you have a shooting, a school shooting like in Sandy Hook, or a shooting like in the theater in Aurora, some of your national news media have immediately tried to blame the Tea Party for it.
Right.
And it turns out the people that were involved in these shootings were left-wingers. They're just absolute crazies. And but that's how they react. They have to marginalize us. They have to invoke fear so they can control us. And the American people have got to stand up and do exactly what our founding fathers did, and that's pledge their life, liberty, and fortunes to our freedom. I mean, let's face it, you have 55 people, 55 men sign that Declaration of Independence. A third of them lost everything. They lost their lives. A lot of them lost their lives. They lost their homes. They were burned to the ground. They lost family members. Some of them were executed. I mean, they gave it all. And right now, the people in this country need to realize, and this is what I talked about in my novel, is people wake up and say, okay, it's time that we stand and fight. It's time that we take back our country. And right now, we still can do that through elections. We can do that on local school boards. We can take back our state legislatures. We can take back our city councils. We can throw these bums out of office. Mm-hmm. And we can fight them in court like we're doing at the United States Justice Foundation. That's what we have to do. But if it gets down to the point where we are being told, you no longer have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms, you no longer have a constitutional right to free speech, and at that point, we're going to say, and the sheriffs, like I said, are standing up, say, no, not with my country, you don't. Mm-hmm. Enough is enough.
Let me ask you this, and then we'll put a caboose on this thing. Do you feel that our military is being purged? And specifically, I have watched in the last several months or so some of our top-notch generals and admirals, high-ranking officers have been fired, asked to leave, resigned on their own. Do you believe that our military is being purged?
Oh, absolutely. Again, this is something that dictators have had to do. I mean, people need to look at Adolf Hitler and read Mein Kampf, his book that you can find, translated copies in English. I read it many years ago. One of the first things that Adolf Hitler did when he came to power as chancellor, he was elected chancellor of Germany, remember? Mm-hmm. First thing he did was nationalize health care, figuring if he could control access to health care, he could control the people. The second thing he did was sign papers, a law ordering that everybody be disarmed except for members of the military. And if you'll, I saw a chilling picture when President Obama had all the children together around him, and he was signing the executive orders after the killing of Sandy Hook, and he had all the kids around him. Yep. There's a very similar picture of Adolf Hitler with the kids surrounding him when he signed the order in Germany. The third thing that Hitler did was start purging the military, getting rid of the people in the German military, because they also had a constitution. They also took an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution. And the third thing that Hitler did was start getting rid of those people in the military, getting rid of the people who were loyal to the country and not loyal to him. So the pattern is the same.
Ladies and gentlemen, perilous times. USJF.net. Veterans, if you receive a letter, or if you know of someone that didn't listen to this show live tonight, get a hold of them. Get a hold of them. A lot of us belong to different veterans groups on Facebook and so on and so forth, and outside and in our local communities. Let's get this thing out. If anyone gets one of those letters, you contact www.usjf.net and you contact them immediately. What are your websites again, Michael, so we can let the people know?
Well, my blog and information about my books can be found on Michael Connally, CONNELLY.jigsy.com. And copies of the booklet on the Constitution can be ordered through that site, or they can order at www.constitution.jigsy.com. Those are the two sites in addition to the USJF. As they go to the USJF site and they look at the section on top that says About Executive Director Michael Connally, they can find a link there to my blog website.
Great. You're teaching a class on the Constitution. Is that not right?
Yes, that's. They can also find out about that on my website.
Okay.
And they can find a link to my radio talk show that I do on Wednesdays.
You come on Wednesdays?
Right. It's on America's Web Radio, and they can find a link at the blog website.
Cool. And I'll keep announcing this stuff for the rest of the show tonight. I'll keep throwing it in there. Michael, I tip my hat to you, sir. I thank you for your service. I thank you for the work that you're doing. Our prayers are with you, and I trust and pray that you'll come back again to be with us.
I will do that. Thank you for having me, George.
Thank you, sir.
Good work.
Stay in touch with me.
I will.
Thank you very much. And if you see the judge, tell him I said hello.
I sure will.
All righty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There we are, ladies and gentlemen. So much to talk about. So little time. My goodness. If you need to, and I know that I will, I don't usually go back and listen to any of the shows. I heard enough of me. I heard enough of me when it was on. But I'm going to go back and listen to this again. And I'm going to listen very carefully to those things that Michael Connally has said. Remember, we live in some perilous times, and you've heard me say it. I don't know how many times I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. We need to wake up. We need to shake ourselves. We need to understand what's taking place. Now look, these people that are trying to run roughshod over us and strike fear in the hearts of the American people, they are a minority. Please understand that. They are a minority. There are more good guys than there is bad. You know what I'm saying? There are more good guys than there are bad. And these people, just as he mentioned, I never thought in my wildest imagination that any time in my lifetime we would be comparing what Hitler and Stalin and other dictators around this world. I never dreamed that we would be comparing an administration with the likes of Stalin and Hitler, Castro, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. But we've reached that day, ladies and gentlemen. Knowledge is power. Please take time and go to usjf.net. usj.net. And there are other sites, other links that you can bounce off of right there. But go read these things. I think Michael said you can bounce off of usjf.net onto his blog, and you can go to constitutionjigsy.com, and you can go to libertyfirstclass.com. That's a course on the Constitution that Michael is teaching. Or you can go to michaelconnally.jigsy.com. All the links are right there. So go to the main website, usjf.net, and I'll be back in about 32 seconds. Won't I, Charlie?
We'll take it from where you are to where you wanna be. 'Cause radio works. The radio works. We'll take you from where you are to where you wanna be. 'Cause radio works. Radio works.
And radio does work. We all know that radio works because we listen to radio each and every day. And I'm telling you, and I'm probably not telling you something that you don't already know, Internet radio. Internet radio is here, and it's here to stay, and it's going places. That's why we always say to our friends down the street, around the corner, across this great nation, and around the world. Yes, we have listeners in the UK, in Italy, in Ireland, in Australia, in the Philippines, across this, everywhere. And we get emails from folks saying about how they liked our radio show and so on and so forth. So keep them coming. Keep them coming. Internet radio is alive and well, and it's going to continue, and it is on the move upward. George C.E., that's George C.E. at Comcast.net. George C.E. at Comcast.net. Excuse me. Before I play this song that I found yesterday, I want to give a great big shout out to a friend that I haven't seen. Oh, my goodness. I guess it was in 1966 was the last time I saw this fella. But we have come together on Facebook. I was quite surprised yesterday when he contacted me. I think it was yesterday or the day before, but nonetheless, I want to give a great big a great big shout out to my friend Bobby Rowland. And we both grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same schools, did all the same things, and so on and so forth. And it was good to hear from you, Bob. And we chatted over the chat thingy, and hopefully we'll talk on the telephone soon, and maybe even perhaps hook up person to person one more time. So, Bobby, it's good to hear from you, buddy, and keeping on and staying in touch. I don't know of any other song that is any more relevant for what was said tonight by Michael Connally, our guest, than this. Tim Cooper, I Miss the USA.
I don't know what's gotten into you, all the changes you've been going through. I barely recognize what you've become. I'm not the only one. I'd still die for you, I hope you know. My pride runs way too deep to let you go. 'Cause we still stand on sacred ground, but we can turn this thing around as long as we've got hope. But God, I miss the USA. One nation built on God and faith. Weren't we better off with prayer in school? Love thy neighbor was the golden rule. Back when wrong was wrong and right was right. We saw evil in a different light, and we slowly moved away from what made this country great. God, I miss the USA. Back before the Middle Eastern War, when we all knew what we were fighting for, never heard of things like Columbine. There was really no child left behind. Before Washington was so corrupt and politicians really worked for us, when the people had a voice and a child was not a choice but a symbol of our love. God, I miss the USA.
I Miss the USA by Tim Cooper. What an appropriate song for what was said tonight. I want to thank Michael Connally for being with us, and please, let me give you that web address one more time because you can go everywhere he talked about right off of that. It's usjf.net, United States Justice Foundation. That's United States Justice Foundation. Now, if some of you have been hanging with us for a long, long time, and if any of you can remember, toward the end of last year, we had a man here by the name of Gary Creep. Gary Creep was the director of USJF, a practicing lawyer out of San Diego. When we spoke to him, he had just been elected to become a Superior Court judge in San Diego County. He was to sit on the bench, I think it was sometime in January. When he went and took his position on the bench, he gave up his position at USJF. Now, Michael Connally has stepped into Gary's shoes, and he is leading the organization. To the veterans, remember, if you get any letters, anything that insinuates anything at all, and it's talking about your incompetence or answering questions pertaining to such, get a hold of usjf.net. They are filing a lawsuit against the Veterans Administration at no cost to the veterans. So keep your eye on the lookout for such a thing, and pass the word to our brothers and sisters that have worn the uniform. And I thank you so very, very much. Tomorrow night, we have a man with us by the name of Bob Bear. I think someday, if I could ever speak correctly, how about that word? If I could ever speak correctly, I would probably amaze myself and pass out. But it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? Tomorrow night, we will have with us, let me get my magic gizmo here, with Mr. Bob Bayer. Now, this is what it's all about, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I wish there was some way that we could do a webinar where all of our listeners could tune in, and maybe we'll work on that in the future, because when Mr. Bear does these things, he does PowerPoint presentations that is just out of this world. But tomorrow night, he'll be painting us a very graphic picture, so you'll be able to pick up what he is saying. We will have him on, and he is going to talk to us about document examination from a handwriting perspective, forgeries and so on and so forth and all that good stuff. And then he's going to be talking about handwriting analysis. And this is where it all gets so fascinating. You know that he has worked with law enforcement people to try to profile individuals that have committed crimes by looking at their handwriting. And yes, it's been successful. So tomorrow night, Mr. Bob Bear is going to be with us, and he will be dealing with the documents, and then he'll be dealing with the analysis of handwriting. So you don't want to miss it. Wednesday night, if you didn't listen over the weekend to the 2 episodes of Unshackled, one on Saturday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time and the other one at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning, go and listen to them, because on Sunday morning we played the Roger Walkwich story, and we played the first part. We're going back on Wednesday night, and we're going to do several things. We're going to have us a gospel jubilee along with the second part of the Roger Walkwich story. That's a true story of a real individual. It'll be aired at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Wednesday night. Thursday night, we're going to have Catherine Albrecht on with us, who was supposed to be on last Friday night, but she was detained in a meeting in New York City that went longer than was expected. So she rescheduled, and she'll be on here Thursday night. She also will be bringing us information. She is a, what's it called? Let me think. Privacy expert. And she'll be discussing a lawsuit that has been brought against the NSA and Verizon by the parents of a deceased Navy SEAL. And she'll be telling us all the details of that, plus others. How the government and corporations are spying on us, what they intend to do, how they're doing it, and so on and so forth. So tune in Thursday night. Friday night, well, you know Friday night. Friday night is freaky around here. And so as the week gets older, we'll let you know more about Friday night. Now, let your hair down, kick your chair back, get up and tap your feet, snap your fingers, bob your head, and most of all, shake your booty.
I've been around a time or two, and I thought I'd be hurt by you. I was hurt, a real bad burn. That's the way I always learn. Whoa, Christine, you don't know just what you need. You left me standing in the cold. All I know is what I'm told. You say I'm done all the time. I say you're out every man that you can find. Don't look around what you have done. You played a life full down the run. Oh, Christine, you don't know just what you mean. You let me stand and go. All I know is what I'm told. I've had enough, can't take no more. I'll take the pride and pick it up right on the floor. Now you get out, do as you please, and don't come back here begging on your knees. Whoa, Christine, you don't know just what you need. You left me standing in the cold. All I know is what I'm told. Yeah.
got it going. Yeah, we do. All right. Now we allow the cloud of insanity to fall down upon us and do with us whatever it wants to do. Take us where it wants to take us. Make us what it wants to make us. Because, you see, here in our world, we don't worry about anything. This is the name of a group that we're going to be highlighting for a little while tonight. Just Another Cat with a Guitar. That's right. Just Another Cat with a Guitar. But this Another Cat with a Guitar is going to be playing a very familiar tune, at least us moldy oldie people. So you listen. Just another cat with a guitar, knocking on heaven's door.
Mama, take this badge off me. I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Mama put my guns in the ground. I can't shoot them anymore. That long black cloud is coming down. I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Mama, take this badge off me. I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door.
Isn't that sweet? You bet it is. Hey, listen, if you want to talk to me, just call me, 302-497-3414. That number again is 302. Stop it, Charlie. 302-497-3414 or George.Espenlaub, Espenlaub, if you have Skype. That number again is 302-497-3414. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Let me give my friend Rick Fowler and the band a great big shout out tonight. And let me tell you something. Friday, this coming Friday, June 28th, if you are anywhere near Athens, Georgia, just run on over there to the melting point. You know what I'm saying? Because on Friday, June 28th, Rick Fowler Band will be playing their show, and they will also be playing with Beverly Guitar Walkin'. So, get there. If you're anywhere close to Melting Point in Athens, Georgia, 8 o'clock Friday night, make sure you're there because it is going to be a doozy. Beverly Guitar Watsons and Rick Fowler Band. You're in for a jamming good time on Friday night. There I go thinking and talking at the same time, and I always get screwed up. Charlie, I'm telling you, he has been doing nothing but bugging the daylights out of me since before we went on the air with his goofy little things. You wait, Charlie. You wait. When we get off the air tonight, you better be running, Jack. I mean, I'm just telling you. You know what I'm saying? All right. Hey, here's some more music. While I try to go over there and bust Charlie a good one. You told me that you love me. Stop it. Just another cat with a guitar.
You told me that you love me, and that ain't no lie. There's no one else above me, no matter how hard you try. Then I noticed something went wrong. My love for you is much too strong. Feel something is wrong. No matter how hard I try, I know my baby loves me, and that ain't
Your cell phone presents an incoming call. It's not an alert. It's not a text message. It's a real call. And get this, it could be anybody, from your next door neighbor to a wrong number. To get your incoming call, just pick up the phone now. And if you act in the next 5 seconds, you'll prevent it from going to voicemail. Get your incoming call now. We are not responsible for the content of your call.
Let's really get it done.
When you're walking down the boulevard, just cruising through your busy day, totally oblivious without a clue about what's coming your way. Strutting it easy down the busy street, the music in your ear, not a care in the world, listen to the beat. You've got nothing to fear, you better watch your back. It's a sneak attack. No way
Just another cat with a guitar. Out of the blue. I like that. Just another cat with a guitar. A big shout out to PB, Patricia, out there in the Buckeye State of Ohio. Thank you very much. And let's see, Justin and Heather, a great big shout out to you. And of course to my friend, Mr. Robert Rowland, who grew up with me. He just grew taller, you know what I'm saying? It's good to hear from you, Bobby. It is really good to hear from you. Stay in touch, buddy. I hope you're having fun tonight. I hope you enjoyed our guest, Michael Connally, who is a constitutional lawyer and who heads USJF, United States Justice Foundation .net, USJF.net. And you can bounce off of there onto his blog, onto a course that he's teaching, a place to buy his books, on and on and on and on and on. But read the articles that is on USJF.net because it is relevant for this day and age in which we live. Let's take this country back. What do you say? Oh, it's been a good night so far. And we're soon going to have to leave you because, you know, that's just the way it is. You want me? Sure, Charlie. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Thank you. Thank you very much. I like this.
That we would ever take the time, that after all these years it could be you that I find. In my dreams I would sail away in memories of you. Years went by and as hard as I tried, I never found a love like you. I was caught in a crosswind, and time was standing still, trying to reach that familiar shore, a feeling that I never will. I can think back to the day I saw you, smiling back at me. It's so hard these days when I walk away from that love that was meant to be. So long just to get back home, to find you waiting on the shore. Many miles and so many trials, I couldn't wait a minute more. I was caught in a crosswind, and time was standing still, trying to reach that familiar shore, a feeling that I never will.
All right, everybody, it's almost time to catch the caboose coming around the corner. Let me tell you a few things. Thank you, number one, for tuning in tonight. Live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. We have no idea where that's at. All we know is that it's safer in our world than it is in yours. So come on in. Thank you for all of you that have tuned in. To our friends down the street, around the corner, across this great nation, it is indeed our nation. Let's take it back, and to all my friends around the world, it's been a privilege, it's been an honor to have you join me tonight. I thank you so very, very much. Tune in tomorrow night, another great guest, more music, more call-ins. We might have some giveaways, who knows?
Caught in a crosswind, and that familiar shore, feeling that I never left. I was caught in a crosswind, and time was standing still, trying to reach that familiar shore, feeling that I never will. I was caught in a crosswind. 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 I was caught in a crosswind.
Just another cat with a guitar. They love them here. Caught in a crosswind. I've been caught in a few of those. I've been caught in a few other things too, but nonetheless, hey, listen to me. Thank you so very, very much for being with us. Now, if it's nighttime where you're at, you have a great night. If it's already tomorrow, like daytime, then you have a very, very good day. But until tomorrow night, same time, same station, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Spreaker.net. Make sure you tune in and bring a friend to the George Espinlove Show. Regardless of where you are and what it is, I want you to know that we care about you. So, until then, stay safe, be kind one to another, love one another. Don't take no wooden nickels. I mean that. Besides, Grandma's watching. When Grandma catches you taking wooden nickels, I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. But anyhow, until tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, and countrymen, this is George Espinlove. Good night, everybody.